Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to RCI TV, and today we're back with yet another one-mate challenge with the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. Kyalami in Midrand, South Africa plays host to round 2 tonight, taking advantage of the naturally undulating landscape, creating a challenging blend of sweeping fast sections and tight technical corners. 4.52 kilometers in length with 16 turns. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator. Alongside me, Jesse Lee, and behind the cameras, Ash Bibby. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to what promises to be one of the most chaotic races in RCI history. 35 race cars on a very wet Kyalami here in South Africa. Cars that have bigger engines than a GT3, less sophisticated aero than a GT3, and some interesting handling dynamics on top of that. This Ferrari is going to put on a show for us. In fact, it's already been an entertaining practice session with cars going off left, right, and center. Now, the important thing now in qualifying, set a nice lap, potentially try to improve upon it. But you might be on the razor's edge immediately, John, because rain increasing in 10 minutes. That is a short window to get a decent lap in before potentially the track conditions degrade further.
Yeah, of course, a 15-minute qualifying session. You already see a few tricky moments there with Tim Ireland and Mike Redford through one of the long sweeping right-handers that we've seen more than enough cars go off during the practice session, as you say, Jesse Lee. Of course, the first 10 minutes are going to be absolutely crucial up to when the rain gets heavier. Of course, the track status and weather you can find in the top right-hand side of the broadcast. A little plus sign next to the cloud means it's getting heavier. A little minus means it's taken away. And currently, we're at the damp stage of the track. So we're one up from green. It goes from green to greasy, greasy up to damp, and then damp, of course, up to wet. And if it goes bad enough, it can go from wet to flooded. And if it goes to flooded, it's going to be very, very interesting tonight. Of course, as you said, alluded to just earlier on, Jesse, 39 sign-ups on the website, and a whopping 35 cars have found their way to South Africa this evening for the action. And me and you were discussing before the broadcast, Jesse, we thought this would be the round that everybody signs out of and says, you know what, I'm taking no part in this, but it's so far the most popular round of the calendar. Maybe drivers fancying some kind of weird challenge tonight in these cars.
Well, you get a free sign out. That's the brilliant part about RCI. We don't want to not allow a driver to compete simply because they miss one round. So a lot of our championships have a drop round and sign outs, but you are allowed that. We expected them to take it here, like you said, but nobody really has taken that. They have owned up to the challenge. This is both encouraging and frightening. This is almost unprecedented. 35 challenge Ferraris on the same wet racetrack. It's quite damp right now. It could become wetter. We don't know. It could become drier, to be fair, as well. We're not quite sure what it's going to do. We'll have to keep an eye on the weather, but almost unprecedented, not necessarily the conditions, but what we have on offer here today. I'm hoping we have a pretty fantastic race and these drivers show what they're actually capable of in today's event. But for right now, qualifying, the letter of the day. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, absolutely so. And currently at the top of the standings, Nico Kumpu finds his way to the top with a 148.512, closely followed by Andy Boardman, just 0.15 of a second away. Rybecki in the mix along with Joe Dorber and Christian Lindgren. They are all near enough inseparable as Joe Dorber comes to the line to set his next lap. Not sure it's going to be an improvement, and it is equally Nico Kumpu's time, down to the millisecond before, of course, Kumpu comes across the line just behind and changes the gap, so looking very close at the top already. Christian Lindgren and Azure Goat, again, who had a great start to round one at Paul Ricard, although a few mid-race incidences shuffled the Goat back down the order. Of course, Scotty Menez Rodriguez, who was saying in the Discord earlier, Jesse, he's only practiced from the race server going live. So he's thrown out, of course, the practice before. He's literally joined the server this evening, seen what the weather conditions are like, and he's going from there. So expect him to find a little bit more pace later on. And Clipper rounds out your top 10. Of course, improvements we're looking from Raphael Huell. He had a great qualifying and a great race at Paul Ricard last time out. He's a little bit out of the order. Of course, we've got John Eraser down there. He managed to slip his way up into P5 in round one's race as well, setting his championship off, very well indeed. And of course, a few familiar names down towards the bottom end of the grid as well, along with Kevin Boss, Callum Kerrigan, their friends in real life. Very inseparable on the track at the moment, excuse me. We've got the Whittles again with us tonight. We've got one of the Pimlots. It's not Darcy, of course. It's Neil tonight, as Joe Dorber slides his way around the lap. Encounters a little bit of traffic along the way. Hopefully it's not going to hamper him, and he jumps on the loud pedal a little bit too hard there. Jesse just loops himself around. That's down at, of course, the turn 13 going into the Crocodiles. We've seen a few drivers with a few issues as well through Mineshaft turn 12 where we are now. It's a notoriously tricky corner in the dry, and we see Rybecki there, four wheels sliding his way towards turn 13. But fantastic scenes in these cars. As you said, Jesse, they're a real handful indeed, and you know, the more powerful engines, less sophisticated aero. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of sideways action tonight, and I'm sure we're going to have a drift of the broadcast vote maybe towards the end.
Oh, you know we will, partner. We always do. We like to see good car control and handling, especially when you get the back end out. A race car, a little bit different than a road car. When you get the back end out, it's a lot harder to catch a race car in some instances. And tonight, they've already shown us that they're able to do it. And that's the nature of this particular car, the Ferrari Challenge. I believe this is an Evo 2 version of the car. It's quite interesting is when you get the back of this thing out, not only is it incredibly hard to get it back in line, sometimes you find it hard to get the back end out at all. Everything's completely fine. Everything's completely normal, even in the wet condition. You mash on the gas just a little bit too hard, and then it all goes completely upside down. Hopefully not literally. And it's one of those cars where you have to have a proper feel of it, and even then you can get bit. Almost Porsche-like, if you remember some of the earlier Porsches in ACC, but maybe a little bit more powerful than that, perhaps.
Yeah, it certainly packs a punch, doesn't it? The Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. I mean, we ran through some stats last time out, of course, 670 horsepower, comparing to the Ferrari GT3 Evo, the 488, of course, comparing like for like on chassis, makes around 600 horsepower, depending on the balance of performance. The Challenge Evo car, a little bit fatter, went in at 1340 kilos versus 1260 kilos. Again, BOP dependent for the GT3 car, and of course with the added power, extra weight, of course the bigger brakes do feature on the Challenge car, but of course with what you've got and reduced aerodynamics, it really is a handful to get drawn up even in the dry, let alone of course in these tricky wet conditions. Nicholas Nordquist, a driver again we're very familiar with here at RCI with the Sim Brothers Racing Crew, the number 137. He's going down towards the Crocodiles at the moment. Keeps it nice and tidy through Mineshaft as he heads to 13. This little kink here, turn 14 before we head, of course, turn 15 of Cheetah. Very nasty anti-cut on the inside. Always upsets lots of drivers, runs them wide. And, of course, in the wet conditions, not going to be fun at all. Turn 16, of course, the last corner. He's coming to the line now. Going to see, can this be an improvement for Nicholas Nordquist? Looking for the front of the grid, and he nearly gets there. Second row of the grid, Jesse. A 148.542. Fantastic lap from the Swede.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nordquist putting them on notice here. Second row, Sim Brothers Racing. And that's a really good return to form for Nicholas Nordquist, who is now back up where we most often expect them to be. And just because of the weather, just because of the car, none of that consequential here. We're used to Kyalami being very close in qualifying due to the nature of the racetrack. It's sort of almost like an equalizer, if you will. Of course, this one-make series, you'd expect them to be quite close. The weather, the great difference, though. Even some people then claim that rain is the great equalizer, and it's showing it today. You've got so many cars within 2 tenths, the top 5, all within a couple of tenths of each other. You got to go all the way back to 16th behind this man, Raphael Huell, before you find a car outside of 1 second. Huell coming to the line here, looking to pick up, and he does not do it. He misses it by just over a tenth of a second. And of course, with 4 minutes left to go, everybody still has additional laps. John, we saw a lot of cars go off in practice. Not quite so many here in qualifying. Is that just people testing the limits in practice where it doesn't matter? Or is that maybe track conditions? What's causing the difference that we're seeing here? Because it's very different. So many cars had trouble in that practice session.
Yeah, like you say, Jesse, it could just be, people know they have a get out of jail free card in practice, of course. Spin out, slightly offline, it didn't work, whatever, return to the pits, new set of tires, more fuel, out you go again. Again, with the qualifying being a 15-minute session, everybody has to really rush those laps in, especially with the weather on the turn. So again, it could just be people are underdriving the car somewhat to play it a little bit safer, to find the limits that little bit more. Of course, with the session change, the weather change, the grip change again, the circuit evolves a little bit differently once again. I just want to touch on Scotty though. Fantastic lap from them last time by on the line, all the way up to P2 with a 1:48.442. Driver possibly very adept to the wet conditions here. Again, finished the race last time out at Kyalami down in P17. So a very stark difference to where they found themselves just 1 week ago. Of course, Joe Dorber slightly ahead there, a little bit more traffic. I think that was in the form of Kevin Boss. Meanwhile, Roscam for Rebound Racing, again, another driver, did quite well. Paul Ricard, given the odds, finished in P8 overall on their attempt. Again, Rebound Racing here with a good list of cars. They've got Carlos Calatayud, of course, Nico Kumpu, Joe Dorber, Theobald Roscam, so all names that we recognise. And again, they can sort of work together, can't they, Jesse, in their battles? Typical kind of touring car-esque rear gunner, front gunner, really try and hustle the drivers along and see if they can make up not one but two positions as Joe Dorber goes across the line in the 777. He's now up onto the front row of the grid provisionally with a 1:48.367. Circuit seems to be ever for evolving, Jesse. Lots of drivers going very quick in this late stage of the session.
It certainly is. Nico Kumpu with their improvement to a 48.1. That reset nearly everybody down the order, and where we had so many cars within a half a second of each other, and it kind of stymied that for a moment, but they've been improving as well. I'm almost willing to believe in some way the track's either improving or the drivers are getting a better grip on the situation after nearly 15 minutes of qualifying. Either way, quite close indeed. Dauber gets within that 0.2 of a second range. We've still got 6 cars within half a second and 14 cars now inside of a second. Huge slide for Theobald Roscam, and that's not what they would have wanted. This is likely their last lap, and that will be a lap ruiner. The 45 car has gone off, and that will be the end of their qualifying as well. Flying laps do count, but for Denek Kalmari, they have had to reset to the pit lane. They're not the only victim of sliding out on their last lap, but a couple of these cars here, especially ones coming down through mine shaft like Tigris and the number 15 Tig Gain Racing Ferrari, they may just get to the line in time. Oh wait, no, I just realized they're on the opposite side of the circuit. They're coming up to Sunset, not going down mine shaft. The camera fooled me there. But there are a couple of cars that will get an additional lap like this one. Thank you, Ash Bibby, for saving me on that one. Andy Boardman for Greased Weasel coming to the line. All these drivers getting one more lap here, as long as they get to the line before it ticks to 0. Many more cars pulling over, many more still on the racetrack.
Yeah, still quite a busy circuit, isn't it? Towards the end of the session, we see a few drivers already into the pit lane. Joe Dorber, Tigris, Roscam. We've got Rybecki, Carlos Calatayud, Malcolm Edwards, and Kalmari, to name a few, have abandoned their laps in the late stage of this race. Tom Shipston there for Ground Zero Racing. I think that could have been Victor Nordqvist there. Nicholas Nordqvist behind, giving way to Tom Shipston, of course, in the number 60. They're going to practice their pit entry, as you see in the background.
Smart.
Of course, we do have a mandatory stop here tonight. We'll touch on that in a second. Of course, Tom Shipston now to the line. Ground Zero Racing, a great late improvement there, up 4 positions on to the second row of the grid. We got a very shuffled top 10 at the moment. Some drivers we don't normally expect to see up there have managed to find their way through. Christian Clipper, a little bit of traffic ahead of him down into the mineshaft section, of course. Turn 12 to 13. Now we're in the midst of turn 14 again, getting held up here by the Ferrari ahead, and unfortunately abandons the lap just towards the end there. Raphael Huell all the way down in P18, Jesse, not where we expected to see this driver. Of course, qualified on the front row at Paul Ricard just 1 week ago. So maybe not, adapting, sorry, to the wet conditions here, finding his feet a little bit harder than most. Comes down to literally 2 corners at the moment, braking for the last one, pitches it in very nicely. Got to be patient on the power, reduce your oversteer, get a good run, mindful of track limits. That could have nearly been the end, and I think it could have been. Raphael Huell to the line, no improvement there at all. And Mike Redford for MYK Racing, one of your last cars to cross the line. Does he improve? He does.
Big time.
P21 up to P13. Fantastic late improvement there from Redford. And these are your final qualifying results. And look again, Jesse, not one driver with 3 purple sectors to their name.
Yep, the sector times there in the middle that you saw, those were all the 3 sectors. The magenta number indicates that they were quickest of all, in absolute parity in the field. And that tells you only one thing. And that one thing is that, well, it's wet, and every driver, despite being in the same car on the same racetrack, in the same conditions, some of the drivers are better or stronger at certain ends of the racetrack rather than others. Spirited qualifying, and that is just the opening act. We still have 1 hour of racing to go. We'll have to flash you back to the racetrack when it ticks over and show you the weather. But before we can get to that, we have some championship points to look at.
Yeah, always my favorite time of the broadcast when we get to have a look at who is fighting who along the way for championship honors. Of course, it's a very competitive championship at the moment. Of course, round 1 just a week ago, so everybody's looking for maximum points. Klaus Nyring, of course, being your victor last week, heads up the field with 72 points. Nico Kumpu chomping at the bit just behind on 58. Raphael Huell, big things to do today, all the way from kind of, bottom end of the grid towards the front. He's going to have to get a good points haul here if he wants to succeed towards the end of the season on 53. Christian Lindgren on 48 and John Aracer, the surprise car from last week, on 44. Azure Goat looking to see if they can improve on their result. Again, had a good qualifying session at Paul Ricard. The race just didn't quite go their way on 40 points. Theobald Roskam on 37, Les Stevenson just behind on 34, and Bry Becky just behind them for Connection Lost Racing on 31. And Tom Shipston rounds out your top 10 with 28 points. Now on to page 2, of course, a name that we don't see a lot here at RCI, but he is still lurking in the background. It's, of course, Rob Franken on 25. Joe Dorber with 23, and Ted Edwards just behind him on 21. Denak Kalmari on 19, and Vossi P.A. Tigris with 17. Angela Scotti on 15. Kevin Boss just behind on 14. And Mike Redford even closer again on 13. Christian Clipper on 12. And Nicholas Nordqvist on 11 rounds out your top 20. It's a long old list here tonight, of course. Nearly 4 pages of drivers to go through. Miguel Martins on 10 points. Richard Withall on 9. Marco Fucuccio on 8. Martin Foster on 7. Carlos Calatayud on 6. Frederick Rude on 5. Hubert Hauser on 4. The event admin, Tim Ireland, that's cooked up this mad combination on 3. Keith Withall on 2. And Andy Boardman at the bottom on 30th with 0 points to his name. And Mitchell Menez, Rodriguez, Teixeira, Jackson, Kasai, Malcolm, Pimlott, Kerrigan, and Bubbins all yet to score in the championship. Grim Lilith, unfortunately, signing out of proceedings. And of course, no double split like we normally have, Jesse. Of course, we normally run a pro and a silver category, or a pro and an am, pro and a rookie, however you want to refer to them as. And of course, fantastic scenes now. This is a very stark difference to practice and qualifying. We're going to have to keep an eye on the weather. But of course, everybody in this series, Jesse, competing for overall honors, essentially. So there are no, fights that you don't want to take in this series. Every fight is worth a point now.
It certainly is. And you want to know something? I think part of the turnout that we have had over the past couple of weeks is the single split. Now, that's just my amateur opinion. I'm not an event manager in any way, but we usually split them up based on their skill. But I think there's a lot of drivers. There's something to be said of a grid of this magnitude with this many drivers that have shown up and even have braved the weather in practice and qualifying today, that there's so many still here. I think a lot of times when you get into a group and there's only 4 or 5 cars, maybe you start to lose a little bit of hope because there's only the maximum of a couple of points that you could ever make. Here, the possibilities of gaining points and losing them, if we're honest, are completely endless here. Top 30 or so are going to get championship points today. 5 cars in that case will not receive championship points. And of course, you got to finish 85% of the race. And all of that, the reason I mention this, all of that adds to the excitement of race, especially here. And now the drama of the weather changing. Of course, qualifying, I'm pretty confident in saying, was on a Saturday. The race set to a Sunday, which means that the weather has been simulated for somewhere near 12 to 24 hours. It is now Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and we have a dry racetrack. It's green, so not a lot of grip in the track, no rubber laid down, but look at that, folks. Top right corner of your screen, weather coming, light rain in 30 minutes.
Yeah, light rain in 30. That's going to be the crucial thing, isn't it, Jesse? We know how tricky it can be at Kyalami, even in GT3 cars, let alone, of course, in these challenge cars. And a Rebound Racing front row lockout, as we spoke about in qualifying. Joe Dorber maybe going to be acting as a rear gunner for Nico Kumpu, allowing him to escape up the road. Or could Dorber challenge Kumpu for the overall win here? Of course, the last thing we do want to see is, friendly fire. We've seen that in the past with many teams amongst themselves. Sim Brothers Racing, I'm sure, have fallen victim to that with how close they all race each other. And I'm wondering if Rebound Racing will, of course, be pulling the same thing tonight. We touched on it in qualifying. There is a mandatory pit stop tonight, and you've got to take it within the 30-minute pit window. Drivers must take on a litre of fuel minimum. And this is a crucial part, Jesse, change tyres. So, will the weather be within the 30-minute pit window? Because if it is, you're going to be great. You're going to be coming in, jumping on some wet tyres, going back out again, mandatory stop cleared, all dandy. The weather comes outside of that, you could be making 2 trips down pit road tonight.
You could very well be making 2 trips if you mistime your pit stop. I think everybody's going to employ the sit and wait tactic here, wait as long as possible, and hope to see what happens beyond that light rain in 30 minutes. Light rain with this many cars, folks, does not necessarily facilitate you coming in, especially if you're going around here quick enough. If we keep the amount of cars we have, it will not be the end of the world. So it's going to be a sit and wait tactic, I think, for a lot of these cars. Hello to our chat, by the way, who has been with us since we've gone live today. Kettler was remarking that of the intro music, that's just ACC's intro music. We can't claim any ownership of that. That's just the intro to the sim itself. It's interesting that they would share music in common with Car Mechanic Simulator. A lot of folks talking about the rain. Withlington says hello from England. Well, hello to you as well. Bubbins in the race today signed up, and they're going to complete the race no matter what. I love the fighting spirit. Hello to all of you who have said hello in the chat as well. John Dalton, you know what the greatest part of RCI TV right now is?
I'm going to say the fact that there may be 3 broadcasts this week and someone going for a trip through the gravel at Mineshaft already.
Yep, there certainly is. Well, there is an opportunity to win free stuff here on the Monday Championship. We'll get more into that once the race gets going. Stick around. We'll tell you how you can win free stuff courtesy of Ash Bibby and RCI a little later on in the broadcast. But for now, we're getting ready to go green. Round number 2 of the Ferrari Challenge Cup. It's Kyalami. It's dry for the moment. John Dalton, take us away.
Yeah, it's dry for the moment, Jesse Lee, isn't it? But of course, weather on the turn in the next 30, and it looks like a fairly hefty shower by the icon. Keep your eye in the top right-hand side of your screen. We've got 2 cars starting from pit lane. That's Miguel Martins and Mike Redford asking, did we both just do the same thing? I think you did. You're starting from the pit lane. Let's see if this pays off as we wait for the green flag. It's typically a long hold here at Kyalami. Lights go to green. Everybody jumps on the loud pedal, accelerating down towards turn 1. Of course, it's a very long drag, very wide. We're seeing 3, 4, 5 cars wide in the background. Joe Dorber already on the defensive into the first corner. Somebody gets a tap in the rear. Tom Shipston takes avoiding action there. Andy Boardman looking to try and capitalize it. This is the pinch point, Jesse. This is where it normally goes wrong. Hopefully we all get through the sweep, and that is the tricky part, of course. Turns 3 and 4 before we get to barbecue of 5. Looking in the background, we see a few cars turned around already. Not sure who that is. We're going to have to get a replay in a minute. Possibly Kevin Boss from Jesse Jesse's point of view there, but everybody at the helm of the field seems to get away relatively cleanly. It's Nico Kumpu from Joe Dorber, of course, heading down into Clubhouse Turn 7. The live timing will sort itself out on the left-hand side of your screen in a minute, and there it goes to Kevin Boss, still yet to cross the sector line, so one of the victim cars in that incident. Nico Kumpu at the head of your field from Joe Dorber, Christian Lindgren, Scotty, Goat, Boardman, Nordquist, Stevenson, Shipston and Tigris all round out your top 10, and it's looking super packed on that circuit map, Jesse.
Yeah, it certainly is. It was very close quarters. They've all cycled out single file. We're going to take a look here. Kevin Boss is in the blue car. Oh, and it was the yellow and pink car, or purple if you will, hops the curb there before barbecue and sets off a chain reaction, unfortunately. The 95 of Mike Redford involved. Miguel Martins was also involved. Didn't quite see the pink car that initially jumped the curb, but other than that, a couple of cars spun around. Everybody else scrambles there, and they just about get away with it as everybody continues and completes the end of lap number 1. Some more contact here, perhaps, as they all get back together. The yellow and purple car in the background continuing to get laid into after the initial incident. It's so hard with so many cars to sort that out. You don't have but a moment to react. Another car off here in barbecue this time. I haven't quite got a number for you folks, but they're trying to rejoin the racetrack. I think it's the 96 car of Theobald Roscom who's gone off. Oh, in fact, several cars have. The 151 now going off as well into exiting turn 1. There's been some kerfuffle there. That's Neil Pimlott.
Yeah, high calamity rate in the opening few laps so far, and of course no live stewards with us here tonight on a Monday, so this will all have to be sorted out after the race, of course, pending any reports from the drivers involved, of course, all done through the fantastic RCI website, racerci.com. If you do want to check out anything that we do have on offer at the moment, we'll touch on a few events in the broadcast as we go down, but Menes Rodriguez, of course, in the 464, big jump over the exit curb there for right Becky, nearly lost it in front of Christian Clippert. That was very well held from them, and of course Christian Clippert maybe a small lift to avoid going into the back of the Connection Loss Racing. But look at this train, Jesse, heading down towards Mineshaft. I think this is headed up by possibly, it's either Les Stevenson or Andy Boardman at the helm. I think it's Les, as we got a car off. Right, Becky off to driver's left into the Armco. Very hard. Not sure what happened to the Connection Loss Racing car there, and I think ahead of him, Carlos Calatayud even took a trip through the grass and gravel as he came down the mineshaft turn 12 as well. Menes Rodriguez now wants to try and dispatch of the Spaniard ahead. He's going to have to set himself up through the last corner down towards turn 1 to see if he can make a move, stick with the slipstream.
Well, very close quarters racing here. Everybody jockeying for position after the initial start to the race for the majority of the field went off pretty well indeed. I've just noticed the 141, I believe that to be Tim Ireland, running around here at the back of the pack, and I wonder how much of that was contact earlier on or how much of that may have been by design. But here's what happened. This is Bubbins. And just a little touch there with Mike Redford. And is there an additional one here? No, they just about get away with it there. Our broadcaster, Ash Bibby, I think just kind of trying to highlight the brother-in-law just a little bit, their contact there. You're not going to get any breaks with Ash Bibby behind the cameras. Oh my goodness, and this was the turn 1 incident with Martin Foster into the back of the 151 of Neil Pimlott. So that's what happened at the end of lap number 2, or at the start of lap 2 perhaps. Zero Goat, who was so strong in round number 1, just a little bit of a fender action there, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, fender action with Andy Boardman there through the Crocodiles. And one of the last replays here, I think this is Bubbins again down into Clubhouse with the 79, and the 79 just parks on the apex, maybe not picking up the throttle as much as the 65 would have liked, and a little bit of front to rear contact there. That's Hubert Hauser in the 79 there. And you know, things starting to thin out a tad here as we see more race replays from all the action. This is how Rebecca maybe ended up in a little bit of a scuffle here. This was of course before the big lick down the Armco. I think that's Ted Edwards there on the outside of him. So trying to make up positions. No, I beg your pardon, this was after the incident with the arm code. So that's Ted Edwards and Richard Whittle, both for position there for Rybecki. He can now set his sights on to the rear of Malcolm in the 199 just ahead there. But, you know, drivers still learning this car, Jesse, very kind of evidently by some of those opening laps. Of course, we know how confident these drivers normally are in their preferred GT3 machinery, but as soon as you put them in something they're a little bit, you know, off kilter with, not quite used to, they're still learning how the brakes work. Of course, the brakes evolving slightly differently in a challenge car. Of course, a lot more weight to stop, a lot less aero slowing you down as Ted Edwards is looking to the inside, but he hasn't got the overlap. Rybecki on the wide line, of course, not much grip on the circuit at the moment. Sideways from Rybecki, he's going to have the inside line to Clubhouse. Ted Edwards is going to have to go the long way around, and I don't think he's got the snout. Rybecki's just about got the overlap, but Edwards with a better drive into the S's, and I think Edwards thought better of side by side with Rybecki, and a little wiggle there from Rybecki's car is going to slow Edwards up, and this could possibly bring one of the Whiffles or Teixeira into the fight as Edwards has to go the long way around at the top of the hill. Rybecki still not succeeding that position away, and they're going to go side by side down mineshaft. This is going to be very hairy, Jesse.
It very is, but you got to really race people as hard as possible. You know what's coming with the weather. Right now, you can't really worry about that. You've just got to race. You've got to use the dry track. Of course, we started with a green racetrack. It's now gone to fast. It's improving in a hurry, but that rain is incoming. We expect it sometime in the next 22 minutes or so, and then drivers are going to have to make a big decision. But for right now, everybody on the same page. It's race as hard as possible. Here's Dinek Kalmari in the 54, and they get a little bit of a shunt, and I use that somewhat mildly, into Sunset, able to recover, but it stacked them up behind them three wide. Dinek will not appreciate being jacked up like that in that corner. Very well held, though, by Kalmari, you have to say. This not so much. 151 into the back of Mike Redford, who's been a little bit of a pincushion here. Neil Pimline, of course, not meaning to do that, but the damage done turning Redford.
Yeah, of course, like we just said, maybe drivers not quite used to, you know, how the brakes evolve over the race, getting maybe a little bit too hot with the brake ducts closed up, of course. Have they set their cars up more for the wet more than the dry? This will be a testing thing, of course, when the rain comes in the next 20 minutes or so, as you said, Jesse. Mike Redford, meanwhile, trying to find his way past Kazai in the number 16 Ferrari. Of course, this is around the outside of Sunset, and I think very sensibly Kazai there giving up the outside line to Redford. Redford swoops around the outside and will now set his sights on the back of Frederick Rude, who is just ahead 5 seconds to the good now, so a lot of time lost, unfortunately, for Redford in the opening lap incidents, of course, like you say, Jesse, being kind of pinballed around a little bit. Nicholas Nordqvist just behind Azure Goat. Azure Goat currently with the fastest lap to their name, as you said, Jesse. Fantastic run from them in Paul Ricard just a week ago. They've got, of course, the train ahead of them beginning to form. Of course, Nico Kumpu at the helm of it, followed by his teammate Joe Dorber, Christian Lindgren, Scotty, Boardman, Goat, all changing fastest laps. It went to Scotty, now Boardman's got the fastest lap, and now Nyring the fastest lap down in P9. So everybody really progressing on, Jesse. You can see this train beginning to form, and we saw it last time, didn't we, at Paul Ricard? You know, a slight miss of an apex, as you know, an exit slightly messed up. It really does give you the run on the guy ahead of you. Just these small margins in these one-make series. You know, we saw it in Genetic Cup very marginally, but the effect of making a mistake in these challenge cars seems to be a lot greater than what we've seen in previous one-make series.
Yeah, well, you see that with the M2 Cup, the BMW, quite a little bit. A lot of the drivers struggling to keep the tires on the race car. That's still a problem in the 1.9 version of ACC in some respects, but that's a devil you know. You know, because more often than not, you've driven that car, you're kind of used to it. The Ferrari Challenge car, if I'm honest, is a car that a lot of drivers drive for a little bit. Maybe they run a race with it, and then they put it back in the garage. They don't really have that experience with. So a lot of these drivers, a little bit of argy-bargy coming down mineshaft. If I had a nickel for every time I've seen that in a race, both real and virtual. Close stuff there with Boston. I believe that was Kasai, who he was side-by-side with. Keith Whittle for Whittle's Wizards. Once again, the 31, and oh, dearie me, Keith Whittle goes for a ride there off the nose of Kevin Boss.
Yeah, just a little bit clumsy, wasn't it? I mean, Boss may be thinking Whittle would be faster off the corner. Boss much earlier to the accelerator, and unfortunately just found a small margin of contact. But doing the right thing, of course, hindering his own race is Kevin Boss, waiting for Keith Whittle to obviously continue their race. A small time loss between both of them, and of course, if this incident does get reported to the stewards, they look more favourably on those that, of course, do surrender the position back to the car. Some eagle-eye viewers may have noticed the lighting has slightly changed at the moment, which means, of course, clouds are beginning to roll in. We do know rain is imminent in the next kind of 10 to 15 minutes or so, and keep your eye at the top right-hand side of your screen. Meanwhile, Nyring going side by side. That's Carlos, and it's not Carlos Latour, sorry, that's Les Stevenson in the number 46. Both cars looking very similar at a quick glance. One's got a blue stripe, one's got a black stripe as they go side by side into sunset. Of course, Stevenson around the outside can do no more, and Klaus Nyring up the inside, and he will prevail into P8. Now he can set his sights on the back of course, Nordqvist, who is currently getting held up a little bit in this train. Of course, Scotty at the helm of it dropped away ever so slightly from the rear of Christian Lindgren, which means Andy Boardman, Goat, and Nordqvist are now beginning to stack up behind. Boardman's looking very racy indeed in the number 69. Of course, round one didn't quite go the way of Andy Boardman in the way he would have liked. Of course, I think big contact at some point. I can't remember the incident exactly, but did DNF 11 laps down, unfortunately, for Boardman on that one. Actually, I think it was a server disconnect, Jesse. I've just recalled it. I recalled the message now from Boardman. Yeah. The only driver to disconnect from the server, which was very strange indeed. No other drivers complaining of any issues, so possibly could have been something on Andy Boardman's end rather than the RCI end. But the 69 certainly looking to improve their championship. A little mistake through turn 15, as we said earlier in the broadcast, called Cheetah, the curb on the inside, very easily, to get wrong. Mount the yellow curb, it bounces you off into the grass and gravel to driver's left, and then lose all your momentum a little bit to turn 16. But meanwhile, Azure Goat with the slipstream tries to find their way towards the back of Boardman. Boardman manages to break the slipstream on the defensive into turn 1. Of course, this is a tricky thing now for Boardman. He's got to set his sights ahead on Scotty, but he's also got to watch his mirror, because of course Azure Goat doesn't want to get passed by Nordqvist, and if Nordqvist is pushing Goat that little bit harder, Goat may be finding a gap that might not quite exist in Andy Boardman's eyes, but there's a Ferrari-sized hole. I'm sure Goat is going to go for it.
Yeah, Goat's going to not hang around. That's not Azure's style. They're going to want to go for it here, and oh my, more contact with Kevin Boss. Oh no, the 157, this time at Keith Whittle again. This time I believe they're up in Leacop there, and that is, once again, Keith Whittle is going to have potentially some harsh words to say about the Dutchman after this race's conclusion. Now, I have teased you long enough. Everybody out there, are you listening? Are you watching? I promised you an opportunity to win some stuff here at RCI TV today, and I will give you that opportunity right after Menez Rodriguez makes this pass on Clippard for 15th place. He gets it done, and now is back on the back foot on the outside. Here's how you do it. For the championships we currently have running in ACC, that's the Monday champ and the Wednesday champ, all season long, starting today, you have a chance to win a prize that is unprecedented here at RCI. If you subscribe, meaning you become a member of the RCI TV channel, or donate a £5 donation to the channel, or super chat, something like that, you get the point. £5, thereabout. $5, £5, €5, whatever it may be. You will be entered to win the GT2 DLC pack for ACC when it comes out. That prize brought to you by Ash Bibby here, RCI's own. What a generous guy, John.
Yeah, absolute generous guy, Ash Bibby, always, with the gifted memberships. Again, does that class gifted memberships, Jesse? Because I know some people do inherit them from other people.
Well, here's the deal. If you gift memberships, the gifter gets entered in the giveaway.
Okay, so you have to... I see that.
So if you already are a member of the channel, you can give somebody else one and gain entry to it. How about that?
So the person that receives the membership is also entered? Just want to clarify. No?
No.
No.
Yeah,
But
you
if
have to
they've
be
already
the
s-
one giving
if-
the
if-
membership.
But if they've already membershiped and then they membership,
They can
but
gift a membership,
again,
and yes, and that
do they get
enters
double
them.
entry?
No, single entry, keeping it fair. No bid wars here. So
Terms and conditions will apply.
Enter to win the ACC GT2 Pack DLC here on RCI TV. All you got to do is gift a membership, become a member yourself, or a £5 donation. Gifted memberships does not enter the giftee; it enters the gifter.
Crossing all the technicalities here, Jesse.
Suzuka Shark asking, can I pay in uwus? Unfortunately, uwus are not legal tender that enters you in the thing, but I love uwus. Matter of fact, give you a free one. Uwu. Back to you, John.
It's a very tame uwu from Jesse Lee there. I feel like we got very sidetracked indeed. But yeah, Ash Bibby, of course, putting up the prize, which is the GT2 Pack DLC, which is, of course, imminent with us. We know there's a rough release date of January. I mean, we're still in January for the next, 2 and a bit weeks. So it's pretty imminent nearly with us. So yeah, fantastic prize there. And a handy prize too. You know, that's something you're going to get some playtime out of. And I know the RCI event admins have got something in the pipeline for the GT2 content as well. So, of course, keep your eyes peeled on the website. That's racerci.com. And while we're talking about the website and events, it's a perfect time, of course, to cover this week's calendar. We've got double Tim Ireland this week, as Tuesday we'll see the AMS2 Group C event at Road America take place with AIs in supporting V8 class. Of course, mandatory tyre change with a pit stop. And using real-world weather data from the chosen date of Tim Ireland
That's
will, of course,
always
provide
dangerous in Wisconsin, where the race is taking place.
Absolutely,
Playing with
so.
fire with the real-world weather.
I hope Tim's done some research on the date he's chosen for this one.
I hope he knows where Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin is.
Let's hope he does. I've done a little bit of research myself for the notes. But yeah, certainly that's going to be one you don't want to miss. And we are going to broadcast it here on RCI TV. So don't miss that one tomorrow. Wednesday, you'll also find us again on RCI TV. So triple RCI, double Tim Ireland. What more could you want in a late end of week January? Wednesday, of course, you'll find us with our new midweek Masters Season 1, heading to Zandvoort for round 2, featuring 2 splits of solo drivers, one for the seasoned drivers and another for the rookies joining us for the first time. This, of course, will be run over 60-minute races to accommodate newer members. With the first season, should we say, of the year features 5 rounds from ACC's base game, making this a great opportunity to get a taste of sim racing in ACC's friendliest community. And I didn't write that. That's on the event page over on racerci.com.
I want to know who wrote that.
I do want to know who wrote that.
I want to see some stats. I know I'm part of the furniture here, but I want to know who wrote that. I want to know who wrote that. I want to see your statistics. You know what I mean?
Need some data to back up the friendliest community in RCI, maybe. But I think we're pretty friendly here.
I was gonna say I don't think I need to see your hard data. I think I kind of have a clue that may be the case. It's with RCI. The whole point is when you come here, whether you're racing or you're watching or whatever you're doing here, it's supposed to feel like coming home, and that's kind of what it does. I saw, by the way, the nose of Bubbin's car clearly disfigured. That car has met the wall or the back of another car at some point. Many cars struggling here. Vulture Rybecki for connection lost. Was it involved in that early melee? They have sort of, but not really, recovered. They're down to 34th place. Tim Ireland, of course, I think got the worst part of it. Either that or was so far off the racetrack they had to trek back to it. By the way, the 141 spent a large time in the pit lane. I believe Rybecki joined them, Roscom. But of course, that was not in the pit window. That was not satisfactory for the requirement. And based on the weather we're looking at here, John, they'd have had to have had another stop anyway, because rain in less than 10 minutes time. That's what the widget tells us. And it's medium rain, as denoted by the 2 line bars of rain. And it's only going to get heavier at the end of the race. A downpour coming for us in the next 20 or so minutes.
Yeah, you're really going to have to time chucking on those wet Pirellis, aren't you, for tonight, of course. Still just under 25 minutes of the pit window open. So, of course, you've still got plenty of time to come down the lane. I expect we're going to see drivers pushing it right up to when the track evolves from fast down to green, down to, of course, greasy, and then, of course, across towards the damp section. I reckon greasy is going to be about the ideal time to change tyres tonight. So, drivers probably intently staring at their weather widgets on their screen as well. Meanwhile, this is we've got Callum Kerrigan and Martins together at the moment. Of course, Miguel Martins starting from the pit lane, not sure if it was elected or not, but Fukushio seeing a gap there through Sunset and pulling alongside Martins in the midst of the fight. Of course, he's got Hauser just behind him, and Hauser gives him a little bump through Clubhouse to remind him, hey, I'm still here, let's get a move on, let's not get delayed too much by these two squabbling, because I, of course, have Mike Redford just behind me as well. So this has turned into a fantastic five-way fight, essentially, for what is P21. You know, of all the places we thought we'd be casting tonight, Hauser goes through on Fukushio, and Redford looks to do the same up at the top of the hill before the descent through Mineshaft. Of course, a bad run through the S's means Fukushio surrendered the position to Hauser, running wide, and he's going to try and have a look back down through Mineshaft, of course, towards Crocodiles. But it doesn't look close enough, and Redford's going to stand on the brakes very hard indeed. Don't want to run at the back of anybody. We've seen a few incidences down here so far already. Redford nearly pulling alongside on corner exit towards Cheetah, but nothing to be had. Everybody line astern, single file towards the final corner, and Redford with a late lunge on Fukushio. He's seen it coming. He's not turned in at all. He's going around the outside. He's going to try and get better drive off the corner, and I think Fukushio has just about done it. They was going to have to chop the nose off Redford before they get down to turn one, because that's where Redford is going to fire the car, and they're still alongside each other just about. It's going to be the last of the late breakers into turn one, and I think Redford has secured this move from about 3 corners ago. That's how you truly set up a move down into turn one. Fantastic driving there, and we've already got a few super chatters coming through. It is kicking off indeed. Manzo with the €5 in the super chat. Thank you very much indeed, with a uwu question mark, Jesse Lee.
Uwu indeed. I think that's Zhao, man. So in fact, with the €5 donation, that has entered Zhao in with a chance to win the GT2 pack DLC whenever that drops. Of course, they will have this promotion again on Wednesday and the next Monday and next Wednesday as well. Anytime we're live and it's posted in the chat, it's available. We'll keep a list of your YouTube names, and we'll do the drawing live on air right when the promotion ends. We don't know when the DLC exactly is coming out. We know it's coming out imminently at some point, but we'll have the raffle live on whatever stream is next. Guido Falk is also entered in that as well. 2 names in there. These 2 individuals in the YouTube chat have a 50-50 shot of getting that DLC, and it only cost them £5.
I'm sure £5's going to be a lot cheaper than what the DLC comes out. Of course, if you base it off the GT4 pack price, that was a lot higher than €5 when that was first released. So this could be a real bargain if you do get lucky in the raffle. But speaking of getting lucky, or maybe not so lucky, the drivers at the moment, the heavens have opened, the wipers are on, and currently Hubert Hauser is getting swallowed up by Redford and Kerrigan down into turn one. It's 3 wide with 25 minutes into this race, and we're still seeing 3 wide into turn one. Be very careful, guys. The track has evolved to greasy, and that was a very quick evolution already. Of course, rain getting heavier across the stage of the race, Jesse, so I'm sure the wet tyres will be coming out of the garages very, very quickly indeed. Of course, teams readying up for their cars to come down pit road. Just under 21 minutes left in the session, and this is how it all happened. Of course, Hauser up the inside into the final corner. Got a good drive off the corner initially, but then Kerrigan started reeling him back in along with Redford, and Hauser just about holds on to that position. Kerrigan has shuffled themselves down into P22. No, P23, I believe, actually. Live timing still not updated on that one, and now Fukushio is becoming the threat, but it's getting a bit dangerous out there. It's getting treacherous. Of course, track is greasy. We see there Kerrigan with a big drift out of the S's, and that allows Fukushio with a much cleaner run up the hill towards Leocop, gets hits the car ahead, stands on the brakes and manages to chop the nose off very nicely indeed. But plenty of action down in the pit lane beneath us, Jesse. We got Lindgren, Nordqvist, Goat and Shipston in the first kind of 4 cars to jump. Have they jumped too early though?
I don't know. It's greasy, and I would probably stay out one more lap and see what it does. It looks torrential, but it's not right now. It's still light rain. I would have given it an extra lap, but there's something to be said about being the first cars into pit lane. Mike Redford bailing out. I believe that was Redford in the 95 coming into the pit lane as well. They've decided now is the opportunist time to get it done. Our chat is lit up with people saying it is raining, and it is. It's going to start coming down harder here in the next 5 or so minutes. It's only going to get worse from here on out, folks. And some drivers have already hit the bail button. Others are staying out. And while there is something to be said for coming in early, I think the right answer is going to be coming in near the end of this lap, not the previous one. But if you've already had some dramas, John, if it's not been particularly great thus far in the race, you're already gambling. What do you really have to lose at that point? Get in there early, get the absolute best out of it. The track just going damp. You would seriously, everyone filtering by pit lane this time must consider coming in. In fact, the leader, Nico Kumpu, for rebound is coming into the pit lane, following a lap car in that's a little bit slower than he would have liked. That's going to allow Joe Dauber to close up. He had opened up a 2.3 second gap, but that has been almost cut in half, I would say, judging by the distance, because of the slower car in front being very ginger coming into pit lane. And that is the risk you certainly run. Everybody in from the top 10 thus far. Scotty, Boardman, Nyring, Stevenson, close, easy boys coming in to the pit lane this time. Stevenson, Kaladian, Eraser, Menez Rodriguez, Kalmari, Tigris, Clipper, Teixeira, I would argue, down in 13th, will also come in when eventually they make their way there. My goodness, it's a land rush on pit road. It's almost like it's raining or something.
Yeah, hive of activity, isn't it, underneath us here in the comms box. Everybody peeling down pit lane, and of course a risky run following other cars in. Have they practiced their pit entry as well as you have? As you say, Nico Kumpu, of course, nearly 2.5 seconds to the good on Joe Dauber, instantly deleted pretty much by the pit in. 1.3 seconds as they come out of the lane. We'll wait for the sector 1 line to come up. But Christian Lindgren here, he was one of the early pitters, you remember, Jesse Lee, and he's filtering his way just inside the top 5. He's going to have nice warm Pirellis for this lap, of course, while everybody else is tiptoeing around, trying to find the grip, trying to figure out which TC settings do I need, what ABS do I need to run, and they're going to be preoccupied with all that. Meanwhile, Christian Lindgren has done his scouting lap. He knows exactly where he needs to put the car for the next 32 minutes.
Exactly. This is really good. Everybody came in everybody that hadn't previously come in decided the second lap was the correct time to come in. That was as busy of a pit lane as I've seen in a very long time. Now, everybody through pit lane, and quite interestingly, at least on my timing and scoring, there was not a single penalty on pit lane. Now, that's interesting because even in the best of weather, we normally see at least one driver getting the speed wrong or having some sort of drama entering or exiting the lane. Now, even in this weather, and even with them almost entering 3 wide, that appears to have not been the case today. So well done to these 35 drivers here today. Nico Kumpu still leads, albeit a 1.5 second gap back to Joe Dauber. And this driver, this is Christian Lindgren. Nordqvist is who I was going to refer to, the quickest car on the track prior to the rain coming out, in 3rd place, 2 seconds behind Dauber. That's your top 3. Boardman, Scotty, and Lindgren now. That's how these drivers have shaken out. A little bit of a shuffling here post-pit stop for them. The Sim Brothers 48 trying to make their best move around Scotty and Boardman in front. Mad Dash here. How hard do you push it, John? You're on newer tires. You're on wet tires shortly now. At this stage of the race, you know the conditions are going to get worse. You pushed hard early. How hard are you pushing now?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Do you want to try and, overdrive the car and essentially kind of, have yourself off in an incident that you didn't really need to take? I mean, Christian Lindgren and Andy Borman battling on the opening lap of their stints through Lear Cup. They went, of course, last time by, and looks like Scotty was the big gainer. They were lurking back in P6. It's kind of almost role reversed. Andy Borman's still in the middle, and Christian Lindgren at the back. So Scotty is going to have to use, of course, Borman and Lindgren fighting to see if they can drive away from the pack and towards, of course, the next line of cars ahead of them. And Christian Lindgren looking very racing. A big slide there. Big slide through Sunset. That was fantastic car control. We said it earlier on in the broadcast. We're going to see a lot of sideways actions from these cars, and certainly a big wiggle there from Christian Lindgren. I'd love to see it on board of that one just to see how hard that car snapped on him. And let's have a race replay here. Ash Bibby with the pictures. Just coming in, of course, to Sunset.
Watch
down the gear like you normally would. Tipping it in. Touches that inside curb. There's just no grip on the inside curb. Lightning reactions almost from Christian Lindgren to catch that car. Didn't really lose a lot of time. Didn't lose the time at all. So Andy Borman still glued to the diffuser of the Ferrari ahead. And, that's the fantastic thing, isn't it, about modern sim hardware, Jesse? I know we sometimes touch on this between us in our broadcast, but, myself and yourself started sim racing many, many moons ago. Microsoft Sidewinder wheels, 90-degree left and right, that was your lot. And now, we've got these powerful direct drive motors that can react within, a frame of the game for instant car control. And a big wiggle there over the curb. Not sure who that was in the background, although possibly a lapped car. Just trying to recall liveries in my head, but not one I recognise from that. But again, back when we started sim racing, of course, we didn't have direct drive motors, so the reaction times now of drivers is almost like they're sat with, the steering column going down to the rack. It's almost instant. Whereas, back in our day, Jesse, we'd probably have no hope of catching that in a slide. As Christian Lindgren tries the outside of Boardman into turn one. He's got to try and get the better drive off the corner. Through the sweep they go. Boardman still kind of alongside as they get to Barbecue. Boardman not surrendering. Lindgren on the brakes, kind of backs the rear of the car into Barbecue and manages to get the move signed, sealed and delivered before they get to Sunset. Fantastic driving. And look in the background, while these guys have been fighting, it's Goat. He's back with these guys and he wants to capitalize on these two positions.
Well, here comes Goat. They've chased down Boardman again. Goat looking to get a top 5 here today and continue their great work. How interesting has it been to watch Goat drive through some of the traffic in the top 10 in recent memory here in RCI? It seems like it happens all the time, and today could be no different. Goat sizing up the competition as everybody sort of stacks up together. And this is the final corner of Ingway. A little bit of a bump there, a Bubbins bump, a little double bump perhaps. And everybody squirts away. Oh, and Callum Kerrigan, I think they've goosed the throttle here. Oh, and it's going all sorts of wrong here. Callum Kerrigan goes into the wall. Another car spins out completely backwards. Hauser, was it a snap or contact? It was contact with the original. Oh, it's contact for both. Oh, what an unfortunate situation. I suppose you could call that 2 separate incidents.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was Kerrigan and Hauser on each other, and then Hauser realised he'd done wrong, tried to slow up, of course, on the racing line, and Bubbins probably, I think that's Bubbins' car anyway, not maybe expecting that, and just into the back of Hauser, kind of, as collateral damage almost at that point. Is Jordan Bubbins in the 65. Kerrigan goes through, of course, they're down in P35 at the moment, and of course by Hauser trying to do the right thing, almost did collect Bubbins, who was probably, you don't really expect a car to slow up on the racing line as such, do you, Jesse? So, just a bit of a miscommunication, should we say, between all drivers involved in that one, but it does prove how close and how hard everybody is racing each other at the moment. Even these wet conditions, nobody is surrendering any position. They want every single, point they can get towards their championship honours at the moment. And meanwhile, Foster and Whittle are glued together coming down the mine shaft as well. We're over 35 minutes nearly into the race, and there's battle still aplenty.
He went too wide!
And Whittle too wide. Somehow held it. Somehow kept the number 957 of Whittle Wizards on the track, but you can see the darker dry line. Of course, as soon as you step foot off the dry line, it's very slippy, very wet, and these Ferrari Challenge cars do not like that at all, and perfectly demonstrated there by Richard Whittle. How he held that, Jesse, I will never know.
I've never been turned into a Looney Tunes cartoon character before, but I think I just went into that territory with that one. I thought Richard Whittle was going around or was not going to be able to stop in time and was going to get into the back of the car he was racing there, but that is not what happened. Somehow able to get it on the binders, not go into Foster, and that preserves that battle, and that's what we like to see. Bossy Tigris in the number 15, the T-Gang racing car working on Clippert, and these two certainly going at it. The longer sort of late apex into the corner for Vossi, not able to get too much there, but just trying to follow Clippert here and through this section of the racetrack and get to a more advantageous place to maybe make a pass. A little bit wide there by Clippert and sharper there by Tigris that time, but yin and yang, nothing gained or really lost between these two. Now these cars side by side, Les Stevenson, Tom Shipston in the orange car, Les in the Dayglow car. Oh, and it's gone wrong. Into the back is Shipston. Les Stevenson will go on, and I believe he's slowing down a little bit, trying to find Shipston in the rain-soaked mirror. But it's not gone right for Ground Zero Racing. They're still in 10th place now. We're racing for 9th. But an unfortunate moment that time, and what was that, barbecue, in fact?
Yeah, it looks like, again, just a little bit of a misjudgment on where certain cars are braking. Of course, the adaptable conditions, not everybody is as confident as you maybe, and Les there just getting into the back. Very unfortunate indeed, because that was looking like such a great fight through the sweep. Just under 10 minutes of the pit lane to go. Everybody has cleared their mandatory pit stop pretty much as soon as it rained, so no real reason for the pit lane to be open the extra 15 minutes, although it is just in case you do need to come down again. Menez Rodriguez on to the back of Carlos Calatayud, coming up to the Lear Cup at the top of the hill. Of course, the notorious tricky kind of double apex, almost hairpin, to get a fantastic run out of this one. You could be setting yourself up very well indeed for turn 13. Looks like Carlos has got some front end damage there. Not sure if that's a replay bug. Of course, we do know ACC does funky things, and Menez Rodriguez wrestling the wheel down the mine shaft, and Carlos Calatayud there just missing the apex ever so slightly. Menez Rodriguez a little bit tidier, makes that small gain back again after the mistake. It just seems like it's, like you say, Jesse, yin for yang. It seems one driver loses, one driver gains, and then it goes back the other way again as the other driver loses and the following driver gains once again. So it's a bit of a tit-for-tat scenario. You're waiting on the big mistake, aren't you, to happen, and then you just kind of sail past your opponent and into the distance. Of course, just over 22 minutes to go. Still, anything can happen, as Menez Rodriguez, typically in his car setups, an absolute rocket ship down the straights, up the inside on Carlos Calatayud into turn 1. Move signed, sealed, and delivered. Carlos not really fighting that one all too much, probably seeing the bigger picture, knowing that if they do fight, of course, this could bring more opponents into each other, and everybody there stepping on the brakes nicely for barbecue. Jesse Lee wincing a little bit in his chair.
Menez Rodriguez was going to go in there, but Menez did not do that. I don't know. That the camera makes it worse than it is, but this is why I winced, because last time through here that happened. That was Les and Tom Shipston, and that's why I immediately recoiled a little bit. You will forgive me, a little bit gun shy there, to the point that John made, that not everybody is going to be as confident in this car at this racetrack in the braking zones. Not everybody has done the same amount of practice as others, and not everybody's just going to be confident in general. Your comfort zone is completely different than somebody else's on a racetrack like this, and that's where you get these fender benders, these bumper-to-bumper incidents like we have. Now, this has put, I believe that's Shipston in a spot of heavy bother. Is that Shipston? I can't tell. It's a car like his, the orange car. That's the...
I think that's Tigris.
That's Tigris, in fact. So that is a car similar, but very different. That's Bossy Tigris in the number 15, who's got Clippert, and now Ted Edwards trying to join the fight here. Tigris has got by Clippert. Clippert off into the grass. That allows Edwards to close up in here. Menez Rodriguez has got by Calatayud. Menez Rodriguez trying to get into this group as well. All these cars fighting over effectively 11th place here, or at least they will be if they continue to catch up. Callum Kerrigan, the WAN Party 28, into the pit lane. Now that tells me that there's been a mechanical issue or some difficulty on the racetrack. We saw them have issues earlier, damaged surely, but that's an unscheduled stop for the 28. But they're not sitting there. The garage door still well and truly up, and that car leaving the pit lane now is Kerrigan's 28.
Very strange indeed. Maybe not enough fuel put in, or maybe, like
Also
you say,
possibility.
Another issue maybe at hand, maybe hardware, or something in the real world that's completely out of their hands. As we do know, a lot of real world scenarios can be quite distracting sometimes. Remember the famous clip of Max Verstappen trying to race and his daughter wanting attention along the way. Things like this do happen, and who knows, maybe it's happened to Callum Kerrigan in this one. But yeah, out of the pit lane he goes, so he will continue in the race there. We've had a few announcements already in the stream. Of course, Jesse's alluded to the competition raffle hosted, of course, by our very own Ash Bibby, with the €5 super chat, €5 membership to the channel. Of course, we'll net you an entry into the raffle for the GT2 DLC, which is, of course, imminent in the month of January in all of the Kunos trailers, so can only be just around the corner in the next few weeks. But we do have another big announcement in the form of the iRacing world. Of course, you remember just a few months ago we went iRacing, and all of last year we pretty much hosted one-off events along the way. But the big one this time is our first kind of larger scale event, should we say. It's the IMSA Season 1. So for Season 1, we'll be visiting some of the most iconic tracks across America, with hopes, of course, if this Season 1 goes well, heading to Europe for Season 2. And if you don't have an iRacing account, John, what do? I don't have an iRacing account. Well, by signing up to this event, you'll be eligible for one of the 3-month trial codes we have to give away for this event. That's iRacing for free for 3 months. Of course, you do have to own all the tracks except Virginia and Laguna Seca, I'm being told. And of course, the car you want to use in the IMSA series also needs to be owned on that iRacing account. But to negate the monthly cost of iRacing, we do have 3 months free to give away. I believe it does only apply to new counts only, so of course if you do have an existing iRacing account, unfortunately not for you. But if you are new to the game, you do want to try it, and you do want to try us here at RCI, then of course head on over to the Discord, get yourself signed up on racerci.com, and net yourselves one of those 3-month free trial codes. So not only the big announcement from Jesse Lee, but of course one from us as well on iRacing.
With iRacing, in fact, I actually have the results of the 2-hour 40-minute Daytona race. It was our biggest iRacing event that we have done, as we see racing on the racetrack here. It was the biggest event we've ever done in iRacing. 37 cars in 3 different classes showed up to take place. Talked to a lot of the drivers post-race. They were quite happy with it. They enjoyed themselves. Little club-level racing in iRacing. And got 3 sets of winners. JS Hot Lappers won it in the GT3 class in what I believe to be a Mercedes AMG. Pavel Dozal behind the wheel of that car. Team Les Stevenson not driving for dropping the hammer, which I thought was interesting, but that Porsche finished P2 in the Wheelie Slow Racing Team Otter. Piotr Dominicus behind the wheel, also in a Porsche, finished 3rd in GT3. LMP2, Rising Panda Racing, Christian Camfrier won that in their Dallara, nearly on pace. Mikael Sundstrom proving that he can race more than just ACC. The Swede gets a silver trophy in LMP2. Connection Lost Racing's Bart Macha finished 3rd. We all know him around here as well. And in the GTP top category, Crazy Stuff won it in the Porsche GTP car. Lucas Coomer behind them in P2. Drift King Motorsports in a Cadillac. That was a tandem of Jaroslav Sindal and Patrick Mayer have won, or finished P2 in that class, I should say. And Pit Stop UK in 3rd place, also in a Cadillac. Luca Filippi and Ryan Leach behind the wheel of those cars. Congratulations to everybody, and especially our podium finishers in the I keep calling it 2.4 hour. It's not. It's 2 hour and 40-minute Daytona race here at RCI. That race happened a week or so ago, but nice to have the results, and it's just a lot of fun. Can't wait for a full series of that, John.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting, isn't it? I mean, not only are we getting involved in ACC AMS2, of course, iRacing. It's also EA Sports WRC. We do have a couple of clubs open at the moment with some rallies ongoing. So again, if you do want to get involved in that, that is exclusively on our Discord chat, on our Discord server. Sorry. So check the links down below in the description. Head on over to the Discord and get yourselves involved in some rally.
I was watching
as
Grim
well.
Lilith practice for the upcoming rally or stage, whatever he was doing at the time. I saw him practicing. Those drivers, those rally drivers, Sean, they take that very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, some people do take some rally very seriously, as opposed to maybe myself on the not so serious side. Should we say anybody that's seen me stream EA Sports WRC in the early days knew I spent most of the time upside down in a bush, off a cliff, anywhere but the stage, really on that one. And the best thing to do in EA Sports, Jesse, is to not practice the stages. Just pick a car, join the rally, see where you place, and see how many trees you can either hit or avoid along the way.
John, I feel like you're projecting slightly.
I may be on the worst scale of the rally stars in the RCI server. Let's put it that
I've
way.
seen you stream your rallies a few times over at twitch.tv/Oriosh, and I feel like you're projecting your style of driving. A little close contact here at the end of Mineshaft. Coming into the Crocodiles, Frederick Rude able to avoid any major incident there, but definitely goes off here just before we get to the S's, as it is becoming quite treacherous, folks. Track very wet. The rain will start to lessen, but that will be after the checkered flag here today. If you missed it earlier on, we're giving away a GT2 DLC pack for ACC in the month of January, or up until the end of the Monday and Wednesday championships we have here at RCI. So any Monday stream, any Wednesday stream, if you donate £5 or more, or subscribe, become a member of the RCI TV channel, you are entered to win the GT2 DLC for ACC. If you already are a member yourself, you can gift a membership to somebody else, or donate £5, whatever you prefer, and that enters you. It does not enter the person that you have sent the gift sub to. And that, of course, is not just today. That will be available again when we're live on Wednesday. That will be available to enter until either the DLC drops or the championships on Monday and Wednesday in, at which point there will be an on-stream raffle with all those that have entered. Once again, big thank you to Manso and Guido for their donations. They have been entered to win that pack when the DLC comes out, or if the championship ends before that, that will be when the raffle is. Either or, but thank you so very much. And also, Guido, thank you for your very kind words.
Yeah, absolutely so indeed. And again, none of this would be possible without you guys at home, of course, whether you're watching the broadcast, lurking in the background, chatting along with us up here in the booth, or even racing in the events at RCI. It's great to have you with us. And of course, 2023 was very good indeed for us. I mean, the first paid competition, should we say, that we hosted on the form of the esports 6-hour series. That was great. Of course, we had a wonderful world tour along the way with some fantastic highlight videos, of course, from Frederick Gutman. One of them is in fact on our RCI YouTube channel. You can check that out under the videos tab. And Jesse Lee, speaking of the YouTube channel, been very busy in the background, I hear.
Oh man, let me tell you something. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas around here. I have locked myself out of creating content on YouTube for a second time, folks. If you're unfamiliar, I'm the broadcast director here at RCI as well, and part of my duty is to make sure that the channel is sort of in shape, and it hasn't been for quite some time. We haven't been making playlists. Things are hard to find, and part of my duty this year, New Year's resolution, if you will. Oh, big slide here, and it's going to be a spin, mostly halfway around. Christian Clipper got off the racing line, was too hard on the binders, and they've lost a lot of time to Carlos Kaladian here inside the final 12 minutes of the race. This happened on the opposite side of the circuit. This is Martin Foster. Oh my goodness, a little elbows out for sure there between those two drivers, and he just lets him go there as if in apology. I wonder if Lindgren got into an aquaplaning situation and didn't mean to do that. That looked quite strange, and if he gave it back, that wasn't in anger. That had to have been an aquaplane situation. But back to the point, we've been changing a lot of stuff with our YouTube channel. If you have subscribed recently, you'll notice the messages are different. If you look at the description, you'll notice the description of videos are different. The titles of the videos are way more concise. There's less garbled language involved in it as well. Videos should be easier to find, and also they're in playlist. I've been updating playlist forever. Apparently, fun fact, YouTube only allows you to create 22 playlists a day, and then it tells you you've got to take several days off. Several of you have been in contact with John Dalton and myself to tell us that certain playlists were incorrect or they've got the wrong videos in them. We are aware of that. I've corrected all of them that have been pointed to us. We definitely appreciate it. If you notice something unusual about a playlist not having the correct races in it, please do get in contact with John Dalton or myself, Jesse Lee, and we'll fix that very promptly. We appreciate it. I didn't expect the community to be a bigger part of it. John, you got messages about that? I did. People genuinely care. They go back and watch VODs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the wonderful thing, isn't it, about, of course, the RCI community. Like you said earlier, Jesse, it is almost like home, isn't it? You know, where you can be amongst the people. There's always something for everyone. You know, even if you don't think you're the fastest on the grid and that you can compete in Split 1, of course, we've got things like Split 2. We've got Split Championships where you can, again, have silver and pro drivers together. I was just watching the action here between Menes Rodriguez and Ted Edwards. I didn't want to see another Shipston and Stevenson scenario going on into barbecue, but it looks like Menes Rodriguez has found his way through Ted Edwards there down into Sunset, moved, signed, sealed, and delivered. Christian Clipper, unfortunately, in the pit lane. Not sure what's happened here at all, as we see Joe Dormer there.
They lost an Ingwe and teleported.
Ah, very interesting indeed. Maybe just calling it a day there. Bit of a shame, really. Just under 10 minutes to go. Of course, there was still a chance for a points haul on the board for Clipper. Joe Dormer navigating his way through some traffic. Of course, the Nordquist just behind him there, still chomping at the bit. Still wants the second position. He's not given up the fight yet at all. And of course, Nico Kumpu's still at the helm of the field. Denat Kalmari, meanwhile, in the Tig Gang racing car. It's great to have deliveries this week, of course, Jesse. Last week we just saw a kind of two-tone orange and black car on a lot of these, but, you know, the livery has come out very well indeed. So, you know.
Very lovely painted cars. And a car
Indeed.
that likely these painters have never put a livery on before, never had to. This is a lot of time, it may be the first genuine championship in it. It may also be the first time, probably is, that they've had to paint it. And my goodness, have they come up with some brilliant designs.
Yeah, that's the fantastic thing about, of course, RCI. We do allow, you know, custom liveries. And like you say, a lot of these drivers probably had no interest in painting the car at all. But again, for the broadcast, they like to make the effort. Of course, it makes it a lot easier up here in the box if we do have a few custom liveries. It's easy to point out when Becky very late on the brakes into the back of Goat, and he's saved it just about, Jesse, but of course big time loss there. That's Klaus Nyring going past into Clubhouse. I think that's one of the Whittles just ahead there. That's lap traffic, of course. Foster in the RPMS Simsport car, and a little bit of a rub there from Goat. So Goat losing out not one but two positions there, but Nyring's overcooked it into the S's. Can Goat find his way through? He's got the outside line, but he's not going to get a good drive off the corner. Nyring gets a much better drive up to the top of the hill into the hairpin of course, Leocup, and he will be chasing down the car ahead. Goat, of course, wanting to have that position back. Involved in that incident, down to P8 now. Of course, Nyring up into P7, and you know, it just proves how easy everything comes undone. I mean, again.
Speaking of cars sliding off of the racetrack in the background, I'm pretty sure it was a red and white car. Am I crazy? Did that not happen? Folks at home, did you see it? Did you not see it? We're gonna see.
I was tapped into a completely different window at this point.
Here's contact here in Ingwe, Denat Kalmari, and
that's for Cuscio.
For Cuscio having contact there. Oh, and there's more incident for Cuscio having an additional incident here. And Marco for Boris Sim Racing has had a couple of laps to forget. I agree with Chad. Big oof. Oh my goodness, sliding sideways there. Now keep in mind, this is after the first contact. Cuscio goes wide. One car gets through and contact here into the sweep. Ping pong maneuver. Shades of the initial start of the race, except that this is almost near the end as Marco was able to recover, but just a frustrating end to this race thus far. Was somewhere near the top 20, now down to P24. 5 minutes and some change left to go here.
Yeah, so not good indeed. But Christian Lindgren, meanwhile, back to the rear of Scotty in the number 34. This battle did die down due to a little mistake from Lindgren getting tangled up in another car. But looking certainly very racy indeed, with just over 5 minutes on the clock to go. Your race leader is just approaching the final corner, so you're going to get a couple of laps out of this one yet. But the clock is ticking for Christian Lindgren for the Sim Brothers Racing number 48. He's looking very confident indeed in these wet conditions. And of course, Joe Dorber is just ahead as well. So again, if Lindgren can dispatch of Scotty, maybe could have a shot at, of course, the rear of Dorber on that one. And just looking to the last time by on the line, Christian Lindgren a 151.9 versus Scotty's 153.1. So Lindgren certainly the quicker car. Joe Dorber losing a lot of time last lap as well, 154.2 with an invalid lap, so off the circuit at some point went Dorber. So cars ahead are hemorrhaging time, Jesse. Could this be what Lindgren needs to get himself onto the bottom step of the podium?
Yeah, it certainly is. Dauber has had some major issue. Of course, they were running P2 all race. Even after the pit stop, they were as close as they'd been since the opening for a couple of laps of the race. But something massive has happened to Dauber. They're down to third. Nicholas Nordquist up into second place now. And Dauber right into the hands of Scotty and Lindgren. And this is the state of the battle right now. This is on the front splitter of the Ferrari challenge car of the Sim Brothers 48. Christian Lindgren looking up the tailpipes of Scotty's 34. Scotty's not probably interested in Lindgren behind, is more interested about maybe taking third away from Joe Dauber, the gold car in front.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, this battle is really hotting up, of course. Just under 3.5 minutes to go. And Lindgren looks like he's got certainly faster through the corners. But it looks like Scotty's car just has the drive coming off the corner. So, again, it's a bit of a tit for tat. And it looks like side by side into the Crocodiles ahead. There's contact between Scotty and Dorber. Christian Lindgren sees the chance. He seizes the inside line, up the inside, trying to get past before Cheetah. Touching doors. There's wheels to doors. Dorber is over the grass. Lindgren is up 2 positions. Scotty chomping at the bit, and now Andy Boardman is getting involved, Jesse. What was essentially a 3-car fight has now turned into a 4-car fight, with Boardman sneaking his way in.
Boardman gave a shot to Scotty coming through so the final couple of corners, and that was very scary, as that's not what you want to do. And he's making another run here. Boardman down to the inside, forcing Scotty to go the undercut route. Scotty's able to do it. Boardman still there a little bit. No, single file. Meanwhile, Christian Lindgren for the Sim Brothers has done it. They're up into P3. Joe Dauber, who has run this entire race in P2, is now under threat for not finishing in the podium. Could he possibly have the nightmarish finish of this race of not even finishing inside the top 5? That would be horrible indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you know, what a way to start and what a way to finish. Not ideal for Joe Dauber of Rebound Racing. We thought he glued himself to the back of Nico Kumpu, of course, act as a rear gunner, but it's all come undone in the late stages of this race. Christian Lindgren up into the bottom step of the podium. He's going to fix his sights on the fellow Swede ahead of Nicholas Nordquist. Of course, Nico Kumpu some 5 seconds up the road. He's been relatively unfazed by this whole race, other than a few cars he met when he came into the pit lane. So an expert drive from the 256. Meanwhile, Andy Boardman for the Greased Weasel Racing number 69 now latches on to the back of the 34 of Scotty. Can Boardman capitalise on this? Of course, a rotten round 1 at Paul Ricard. Boardman finishing all the way down in P30. Not ideal. Scotty slightly over the curb and into the grass. That's going to shallow the line up into turn 13. Boardman takes the relatively normal line, although nothing really gained in that corner. It's a few corners to go before we reach the start-finish line. Of course, your race leader just crossing the line now to begin the final lap. So they have one more shot at it. 16 turns ahead. There are 3 cars within less than half a second of each other. It only takes one mistake, Jesse Lee. Can Joe Dauber hold on to that P4?
Maybe Joe Dauber still kind of in the mix here to maybe get P3 back. That's got to be where Dauber's heart is for the moment. But you can't take your eye off the cars behind you because it's also close. Scotty holding off Boardman for the time being. That calmed down. Scotty reaffirming that the fight is with the gold car in front after the charge from Boardman. Boardman might also be slightly gun shy after the couple of contacts because there's no way Boardman was trying to move Scotty out of the way to make the pass. It was just a misjudgment of space, surely, because he's certainly a little bit more timid now. Trying to make a run, though, was Boardman into the corner. Oh, it's a huge slide for Scotty. They're going to save it here in Sunset and somehow still block Andy Boardman. How's that possible? Boardman down the outside, trying to find any space, any overlap, just to get them stuck side by side. Boardman must favor their chances if they do get side by side, but single file, Boardman can't go through them. They have to go around them, and it's still 5th place for Angela Scotti for the Ferrari racing car, and that's incredible. What driving that was. That'll be one that folks replay for quite some time. If I'm Scotty, I'm showing that to friends and family. Look at that defense out of Sunset.
Yeah, that's coming out on YouTube Mobile, isn't it, at work? Look at what I did last night to this guy. Absolutely. Buddy's run wide. They've run wide ever so slightly in mineshaft. And could this be what Andy Boardman needs? It looks like Boardman breaks a little bit too late for the Crocodiles, runs himself out of the apex, and that is not ideal. But certainly, as you said, Jesse, I'd be showing that off to all the friends and family. Look what happened tonight in my sim race.
They should be proud of that.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm proud of them.
Yeah, I mean, blocking somebody like Andy Boardman as well. Boardman sees a gap and he will go for it. But of course, across the line has already crossed Nico Kumpu, the flying Finn. We wanted to see how that battle ended and we got exactly that. But the 256 takes the round 2 victory. And of course, Nicholas Nordquist up into a surprise P2 and Christian Lindgren following suit, the fellow Swede, in P3. Joe Dauber clawed onto the P4 from Scotty, and Boardman Goat comes through in P7. Nyring in P8. Shipston has managed to beat Stevenson to the line for P9 and 10. We're then waiting on the next kind of gaggle of cars to come through, headed up by Vossi Tigris on that one. Menez Rodriguez, P12, a man who only started practicing when the server went live at about 7 o'clock. It's now, of course, just gone 9:15 in the UK. So about 2 hours and 15 minutes in the car, and he's managed to P12. Ted Edwards, John Eraser, 13 and 14th. Carlos Calatayud, I think, lost out there to Matthew Malcolm on the last corner for P15. Calatayud across in 16th. Mike Redford will net 17th from Neil Pimlott in 18th. Miguel Martins started from the pit lane, of course, a bit of trouble in the race, P19. And we're waiting for a few more cars, of course, to cross the line. Kevin Boss for the Wheelie Slow Racing Team. A few clumsy mistakes from Kevin in this race. I'm sure he's going to be looking back on them and kind of learning from them. And that's the main thing, isn't it, Jesse? How you learn from your mistakes. And certainly this race is probably one to watch back for a lot of drivers. A driver we're not seeing too much of in this race is Bernardo Teixeira in the 318. They will, of course, come through to cross the line in P21. I think that's one of the very few cars still circulating on a valid lap. Hopefully ACC will close out. There we go, indeed. And we'll have a look at your final results for tonight. Of course, Nico Kumpu at the head of the field from Nicholas Nordquist and Christian Lindgren will take the 3 steps of your podium. Of course, Joe Dauber, what could have been there, and Angela Scotti as well. Both great drives from those guys. Andy Boardman in P6, followed by Azure Goat in P7. Klaus Nyring, again, round 1 winner, finds himself down in P8. Maybe wet conditions and Kyalami, not the combination. Tom Shipston in 9th, Les Stevenson in 10th. And then we have some fantastic names through the latter half of the grid as well. Tigris, Mendes Rodriguez, Edwards, Eraser, Malcolm pipped Calatayud to the line in the last dying moments. Redford and Pimlott, again, 2 names we're very familiar with here at RCI. Miguel Martins, Kevin Boss, Teixeira, Kalmari, Withall, Rybecki. Not the greatest round from the Connection Loss Racing driver there. Ross Cam, I'm going to take another punt at this name. We've had some language advice in the YouTube chat from Guido early on.
Appropriately named Guido.
Yeah, exactly. It's pronounced Facuto, I'm being told.
I think it's Fasciuto.
Fasciuto?
Guido, correct us. I've been calling him
we still need
Fasciuto
lessons.
Before, because I think Fasciuto is an Italian word. I didn't know if it was a name or not. But who's right? Who has interpreted your interpretation of Italian correctly? Let us know, folks. It's been a great race. Rather, besides, we do apologize that both John and I speak some form of English. We do apologize for that if we get your names wrong here. But what a wet race it was. We expected it all week. We wondered, John, what kind of race we were actually going to have. And we expected carnage in the wet. And we got a lot of really good side by side racing, a lot of comers and goers in the field. Joe Dauber's obviously upset about how their race ended, but largely a lot of good battles. I was worried that this race might be one that lives long in the memory for the wrong reasons, but after seeing it, I feel like I'm going to remember this race for all the right reasons. A lot of good saves, a lot of excellent battles back and forth from the start to the finish. That was a really good race.
Yeah, I think we had our fair share, didn't we, of kind of drama, but also alongside that was, excellent racing to boot. We thought it would be one of the quieter rounds on the calendar, with drivers knowing that it was, of course, deemed to be the wet race of the season, the mixed conditions. Tim Ireland even posting a simulation of all the weather combinations so far on the server. Of course, with the 38 or 39 sign-ups, of course, we had 36 cars on the grid tonight. So it was a fantastic turnout from everyone involved, and kudos to everyone that even made it through a few laps in the wet of this car, should we say. It's been a very tricky event. But yeah, I think we're gonna remember this one for, of course, the right reasons on that one. And we do have, of course, plenty going on here at RCI. If that wasn't enough to wet your whistle, of course, we do have AMS2. We have double Tim Ireland tonight and tomorrow with his event admin items on the RCI calendar. Of course, we head tomorrow in Automobilista 2 to Road America. We'll be taking some Group Cs around the very fast circuit, should we say. I've already done my notes for tomorrow. I've done a little bit of research, and this is going to be an exciting one. Still plenty of sign-up space on the website for that one. Head on over to racerci.com. Of course, we do have some good names down on that one. So if you do want to join your friends, have a look at who's on the list, and of course, get involved. We've got Andy Boardman, Hauser Adler, we've got Isaac Barclay, Neil Pimlott's back again, Tim Ireland, Matthew Malcolm, Bernardo Teixeira, Andy Hearn, John Aracer, and Joe Dauber. So get yourselves involved in that one. We are bringing you some action on RCI TV tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Of course, we do have a triple broadcast this week. With Wednesday, you'll find us heading to the Midweek Masters Season 1. We're heading to Holland for Zandvoort round 2, featuring, of course, 2 splits of solo drivers, one for seasoned drivers and the other for rookies. This, of course, will be run over 60-minute races to accommodate everyone. The first season of the year features 5 rounds from ACC's base game, so you don't need any DLC to be purchased at all. Just pick a car, jump in, and get involved. Of course, no Night Owl this week. We are on a break. That will be back the following week. So if you are looking forward to driving some older cars, then Night Owl's mini-series is for you. Head on over to the website, get involved in that one. And we do, of course, have our DLC competition on the subject of DLC, of course, provided by our very own broadcaster here, RCI Ash Bibby. He has been active in the chat, watching all your messages come in and out through the evening. To enter, if you donate either £5 or subscribe to the RCI channel as a member, we'll enter your name into a raffle, and we will raffle off the DLC live on RCI TV for the nearest broadcast, of course, to the DLC release. We know it's due sometime in January. Of course, the days are ticking down, just over 2 weeks now until the 31st hits, and of course, before the 31st, hopefully we'll be seeing the GT2 DLC. Of course, lots of RCI events being thrown around and spitball between the event admins on that, so we will be running those cars, so they won't be, purchased without reason, should we say, and I'm sure a load of other communities will be doing the same. Of course, typical day one hype, such as the GT4 cars, and then it kind of spirals off and everybody's back in GT3s with before you know it. Of course, a quick thank you to everybody at home, whether you're watching back now or whether you've been with us from the beginning or just supporting your favorite driver lurking in the background, or you've been driving in the event. Thank you very much indeed, because none of this would be possible without you guys behind the scenes. And of course, a big thank you to our partners that are involved in us here at RCI as well. You can find all their details down below in the description. Of course, logos have been circulating around in the bottom left-hand side of the broadcast all evening. Of course, AK Esports, not only a leading Italian company in esports management and organization across the world, but also providing our server solutions here at RCI as well. Fantastic stuff they do. Brands such as the FIA, SRO Motorsports Group, Porsche, Dallara, you name it, they've probably worked with them in the virtual world. Driver61.com, of course, where you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code with a link in the description below. Of course, from one-on-one coaching to full driving courses, I'm sure the folks over at Driver61.com will have something that can help you. Of course, Fanatec need no introduction. Everybody knows who they are, and I'm sure the hardware is circulating around the grid like nobody's business at the moment. Of course, a brand new line of Sparco products have been launched very recently from them. So if you are looking to pick those up, or maybe even the Rally button box that looks really neat as well, you can find our RCI affiliate link down in the description below. It won't cost you a single penny at all, but it does sprinkle a few pennies into the RCI pot that, of course, helps with all of our running costs here we do incur. And two new partners that joined us very recently, just last year, of course, digitalmotorsports.com, offering a number of products and services from virtual driving experiences, corporate events, an early drive program in conjunction with BMW at Mondello Park, esports championship, driver training, simulator components, and even complete sim rig solutions. Head on over if you think they can help you in your latest venture. And of course, lastly but no means least, Go Setups. And I know a lot of drivers are using these setups in the challenge car this week to try and tame the wild beast that is. Of course, formed to be one of the premium esports setup stores for Assetto Corsa Competizione. Their primary aim to create setups for all skill levels, whether you're esports ready or looking for a safer alternative for your favorite car. Head on over to their website if you think they can help you. And just today have released the latest round of LFM BOP for their weekly events, I guess you could say, or daily events. So if you are looking for a competitive edge there, then head on over to Go Setups. And with the partners out the way, of course, it is time to say goodbye to you guys. Jesse Lee has run out of the booth very promptly tonight to tend to other business. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Partner. Oh, he's still here. He's back. It's fine. But yeah, we'd like to thank you, both me and Jesse, for joining us on this venture. Remember the GT2 raffle. Remember iRacing IMSA Season 1 is up on the website as well to get involved. And 3 months free iRacing if you do sign up to that event with us. Of course, get involved with the RCI, the iRacing event admins to claim that code. Of course, new accounts only on that one. So be careful on that. But yeah, from myself, John Dalton, from Jesse Lee alongside me, you're going to have double of us this week as we're back tomorrow with Automobilista 2. We're racing Group C.
Still time to sign up for that if you want to. It's base game content. Come join us. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Exactly. Get your name down for that one. Head on over to the website, racerci.com. So me and Jesse will be back tomorrow with Dan Van Zoofen on commentary alongside myself. So we look forward to seeing you for that one. And of course, on Wednesday, you then got Jesse Lee and Dan Van Zoofen in the comms box for the Midweek Masters. So plenty of stuff happening on RCI TV. We thank you for your support, whether you've watched us, you've lurked, you've subscribed, you've donated. A big thank you to you all, of course, Manzo and Guido with the donations tonight. Get their names in the raffle, Jesse Lee, because they're already in it early doors. But yeah, it's been fantastic to have you all with us. We'd like to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And of course, we'll catch you tomorrow on RCI TV for another fun-filled event. Take care.